I'd like to call the Public Safety Committee meeting for Tuesday, January 11th to order. Roll call, please.
Doug Brunner.
Here.
Randy Swingen.
Here.
Tammy Roll.
Here.
Kevin Engline.
Here.
Candace Montag.
Oh, good, yeah. Good. All right, thank you. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the PSC on any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the PSC encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. Anyone online interested or any emails?
No emails and nobody online.
In addition to nobody with public comment, there's nobody online. Right?
Nope. Yeah.
Thank you. Item 5, approval of minutes from the October 5th, 2021 PSC meeting.
I move to approve.
I have a motion from Randy and a second from Tammy. Any discussion on the minutes from October 5th? Hearing no discussion, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Item 6, report of PSC officers. I'll go first. First, I guess I'll welcome everyone to 2022. I'm looking forward to working together as a team. I want to thank Chief Tony and his staff for their updates and professionalism in 2021. More partnership, more community engagement, and a focus on community policing. The efforts are appreciated, and we updated with some equipment as well. I appreciate that. Also want to thank our committee for their meeting times and efforts to support the PSC agenda and focus on the department's work. So I appreciate it, and I hope we can continue and have an efficient, good year next year. Any PSC members want to have a report out? Buckets. Nothing. All right. Report of first responders, Cross Plains area EMS chief.
I sent an email out to her along with the agenda and all the packet information. I didn't hear back from her, so whether she was coming, I usually get an email if she's not. So I think we'll just say no report.
Sounds good. They can be having some challenges with staff. Outbreak as well. We'll get a minute out to her. Cross Plains Fire Chief.
So last year, 2021, we had 110 calls for the year. Calls for service, 49 of those were in the village. 36 were in the town of Cross Plains, and 15 were in the town of Barrie. Fairly standard ratios, maybe down a little bit in the village comparatively by percentage, but I'd say it's still pretty standard ratio between the 3 municipalities that we serve. And then there were 10 times that we went out to help our neighbors. I think mostly Middleton and Letter. I can't recall if we went to the northern directions or not. And then there was 8 times where mutual aid was received into our district. So that's usually pretty equal. A lot of times we go help our neighbors versus our neighbors come and help us. So nothing too out of the ordinary there. As far as call line, call types, we probably got a little bit more on the EMS assist side since they've gone down to from a 3-person crew down to a 2-person crew for their staffing reasons. Hasn't been much of a struggle there really, but I definitely say that we've increased our EMS assist type calls. So other than that, so we had this winter is going to be a pretty busy winter for members going to classes. We've got 4 in the Fire 1 certification class. It's 1 night a week. Basically follows the MATC semester, so that'll go all the way until May. That's being held at Verona. 5 in the Fire 2 certification class. That's actually in Cross Plains on Monday nights. And we've got 11 in our driver operator class. That's actually Cross Plains on Tuesdays. So busy for some of them are double dipping Monday and Tuesday. So it'll be busy for them, but we're very excited to have as many people in classes as we are. So most of those classes are at no cost to the district. It comes through the state, the 2% dues from insurance, homeowner insurance. We have paper textbooks in the final class. So still full semester class that costs us like $140 a student or something like that. So not very, not a huge toll to the district, and it's all volunteer hours for them. So and then we had 5 members that we put on about a year and a half ago. They passed their Fire 1 class last fall, the December semester. They will be, so they passed through their probationary period. So they're full-fledged firefighters as of the end of December. So the last thing I have tonight, we have a engine in Mineral Point staffing their station for a 12-hour operational period. They left here about 6 and won't get back till about 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So the station staffing, I think they're staffing for about 10 days from the incident last Thursday. And I just looked at the template a couple hours ago and they were almost full all the way through Monday. So if there's not another gap this weekend, we might send another truck out. Other than that, that is all I have.
Just vehicle.
Truck and four members. So one of our basically they're staffing their station with a chief officer, a squad, which would be kind of extrication tools, that kind of stuff, and 4 members, engine pumper type with 4 members, and then a tender for rural areas for 2 members. So every day and night they're doing 12-hour operational periods. So I believe the village of Darlington staffed for the first 72 hours straight. So they put it out to the southwest region, which covers kind of across south and Madison west. So there's departments from a good chunk of the state that are staffing, helping them out during their time. So the funerals being over the next 4 days. They're staffing. I believe they're sleeping at their, they open up their EMS station. All the food and everything is, all their meals are provided and everything. So
quick question.
Yeah.
On the EMS calls, are you guys rolling on all the calls, or is it as needed?
no, it's so there's the type of acuity of call. So a lot of their falls were going on now. So everything's coded Alpha Bravo Delta Charlie Delta Echo. So Charlie calls, or Delta and Charlie calls and above were going on for their falls. And then P&Bs were going on pulseless non-breathing patients, and then also as needed. Whether it's a larger person, a access issue down in the basement,
Sure.
That kind of stuff. So no, we're not going on every one of their calls, and typically we're just sending our Suburban. If it's anything more, we're sending on the weekend, like firefighter takes chief officer takes the Suburban home on the weekends for staffing. They're doing we'll take our one of our engines along. So usually it takes 2 or 3 people. We've had a few a little bit more. Yeah, so for the most part, it's been attainable to be able to staff those crews. With the winter months coming, we've gone just literally to shovel a cycle. So I can just to help model their doing patient care and work on getting the egress out. So
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Chief. Any questions? Cross Plains Police Chief.
Okay, I have our report for December. We'll be talking a little bit about the annual report later on, but basically, hey,
I'll be that true, and I just want to make sure you guys are good to go.
we're good. Everything's working.
Thanks, Will.
So some of the highlights of I'm just going to give you some highlights of your totals. Local ordinances violations were down this year. Noise complaints were down this year. We've had one of our biggest downs this year has been theft complaints. We went from 24 thefts last year to 11. We did have an increase in burglaries and retail theft, all of which have been solved one way or another. We've had a very good solve rate. As far as total calls for offenses, last year we had 264, this year we had 212. So, it's down. We're not, the offenders are a little lower this year, which we appreciate. We've stayed pretty much standard with vacation checks and property checks, about 500, almost 500 on the year. One of the big things that has increased, one of the things that I asked staff to increase on is door checks, checking businesses, rattling doors, getting out of the squad car. And so, for instance, in my first year here, they had 14, and last year they had 77 open doors. So that's a huge increase, and so they met what I've asked them to do with regard to that. The other thing that's been an increase this year too. From the first year here, we only had 2 events. It was, COVID 2020. Last year we had 12 events that we participated in. So we're getting out into the community and handling events and helping things out. Total calls for service, we were 1,700 service calls, and then which was up from last year, which was in the 1,500s. Then following the traffic, which is a different tier of our calls for service. For instance, we took a harder approach on snow removal things because we were finding that there's just a lot of violations, and it's making it really difficult for Jerry and his guys to get around and clean up and those kind of things. So we did have a little bit of an increase that way. Whether it was snow or it was just parking issues, we've almost doubled those type of complaints. As far as traffic complaints, we stayed about the same, about 90 complaints a year that we normally get. The other big increase from my first year here is we get a lot of complaints on traffic issues. We've got a lot of cars coming in and out, racing in and out all the time. In my first year here, I asked them to step it up, and they had 269 traffic stops. In 2021, I said, we got to do better because we're still getting a lot of complaints, and they really stepped it up to we had 440 traffic incidents. However, enforcement stayed about the same, in around ballpark about 70 citations. So they're not being any heavy-handed. They're just making more stops, getting people to slow down. So it's affecting our complaints because we're so visible, and you see the lights on, and kind of slows everybody else down. So total calls for service at my first year here, we had 2,300, which was almost I think I reported last time it was over almost a 30% increase, or high 20s. Well, last year we had a total call of 2,678. So we're up another 300 plus calls. We are extremely busy, extremely busy. The one thing that is happening is we're going to start experiencing some staffing issues. I have one officer that slipped and hurt himself. He broke a couple ribs. So he's out. He's been out now for, I think, a couple weeks. So he'll be out for probably a couple more weeks, just trying to recoup. He is on light duty, so I still have him doing things to keep our department still flowing. And then I have another officer that has accepted a position up north, closer to his family. And it's just time for him to spread his wings. There's an opportunity for advancement for him. So we've trained him, and he's taking on a supervisory position up north, which you can't fault him for doing that. And it's closer to his family. So I believe I'll probably end up with the resignation here within the next couple of weeks. And so probably late February, early March, we'll be looking at going through the hiring process and that kind of thing. So that's about all I have. We're just really, really busy. So a lot of my time is spent trying to get all the chief stuff done and still handle calls for service, because I'm handling almost equal amount of calls as they are. So just depends. Today we were going from call to call to call to call. So it's very, very busy and very stressful, which I saw a picture when I first got hired. I had more darker hair. It's like completely white. I'm like, as long as it's not falling out, I guess. So yeah, basically, yeah.
Moving into committee discussion, the first agenda item, discussion and possible action regarding rules, roles, responsibilities, and mission statement of the Public Safety Committee. I'll kick off a little bit of the discussion and then we can talk about how to proceed. I personally have worked with a lot of safety action teams and nonprofit teams, and I just want to make sure that we're always respectful of each other, having some fair ground rules about how we're going to operate, also respectful of everyone's time. And then also just kind of understanding where we fit, you know, as far as scope of influence, decision making, all that kind of good stuff. So, you know, what I think can quickly be developed together is just some straightforward ground rules, some roles of the committee, and then a mission statement. And the mission statement kind of guides us so that we stay within our scope of work and our focus. We're the Public Safety Committee, and you know, there's probably certain things we should have taken on or should take on. I think our members have all been respectful around if they have to miss a meeting, they let the chief or myself know. We don't want to waste time and not have a quorum. And we know, especially with some of the contagiousness of the latest round of COVID, that we might have some challenges with that. So I think it's important that we communicate, respect each other. I also think sometimes Public Safety Committee topics could get a little heated, and I think we need to always respect each other and stay, you know, mellow and professional. So what do you all think of developing just a couple simple things to kind of help us move?
It works for me. The one area I think is scope, which is probably important, at least from my perspective, on what the priorities are and how we're going to work through those priorities relative to other things that come up impromptu. Agenda items.
Agree. And
I don't right now.
so there's kind of a couple ways to do this. Chief Tony sent out a little bit of the info I put together around ground rules and roles and mission statement. The default, if I remember, was the current mission statement.
Not, I mean, we've got, yeah, we don't.
No worries at all.
Yep.
I was just curious because what I was kind of hoping to do was fold them in together.
Yeah.
The police department has a up-to-date one. I will ask the MS director if she's got one.
Kind of like a general one that we've had to use for certain things. And
Okay.
certain, like there's actually a grant we had and we never truly adopted it, but
Okay.
it's there, but it's pretty generic.
Yeah, probably a good starting. point.
Yeah, exactly. It's a starting point, but we got to evolve from it.
And they should fold together. You know, our mission statement, how it works, should fold together with the roles and our ground rules. So, you know, I am open, you know, to kind of how we develop this. I would be willing to take the lead and work with Jay and Chief and just kind of develop those three things and bring them to the next meeting as a draft. Does that sound like a decent process? And at least for the minutes, why don't we have a motion in a second on that process? So I think we agree that it's worthwhile to have those 3 or 4 items. I'll be happy to take the lead and bring a draft to the next meeting. Got a motion by Randy, second.
I'll second that.
Second by Kevin. Any other discussion on that process? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say the same. That passes, and I think that's a good process. Discussion on possible action regarding appointment of a second chairperson to the Public Safety Committee. The idea around the second chairperson is just to help develop somebody, and also if in my absence, they would help run the meeting with Chief. I can tell you, you know, it was a little more unofficial, but if Lori missed something, I usually help pick it up. Sometimes it can be somebody who's interested in the village board. Sometimes it can be somebody who's just interested in learning a little bit more how the process works. Chief, do you have anything to add kind of on the second
No, I think it's just important, like for me, if for whatever reason I can't come, I'm probably gonna assign one of my senior, either the senior officer, Scott Kretz, or the lieutenant to come in and handle the meeting, but I think for us, it's, since we're paramilitary, it's pretty easy to say, okay, you're gonna have to step in and those roles, but maybe identifying somebody who would be interested in this group, I think it's important because emergencies happen, situations happen, and we have, we have a lot of business to take care of, and we'd hate to not have a meeting go because we're not functioning as a committee. I had mentioned this to Lori back when she was doing it, and said at some point we should probably get it on an agenda and make it formal, but since Doug was kind of filling in it, I think it just was comfortable to continue on, but I think to do it formal would be kind of nice as a second chair.
So this is a co-chair and Doug is still the chair.
He's a chair, and then we'd have a second chair.
That
And
was always a good idea.
Yeah, so-
I think it's a good idea.
if anyone has an interest, we could allow that tonight. If you want to think about it, we can have it as an action item. I'm not gonna give it to Candace just because she's not here. That's how I used to do it at work. And the office, when somebody didn't show up to a meeting, that's kind of that
I guess.
they were voluntold, but that's.
I mean, I guess if somebody's interested, just speak up and we could handle it right now with the motion
I'll let someone else have the opportunity.
and it's like you're kind of.
See what the ball's rolling.
You didn't speak up fast enough.
Should I be interested?
Okay, so then we need a motion.
So I'll make a motion, Randy, is our second.
I'll second that.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on appointing Randy as our second chair? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say the same. You can raise your hand, but he didn't. He said,
I didn't even see it.
Thank you, Randy.
thank you, Randy, appreciate that. Discussion and possible action regarding alternate side parking ordinance.
Okay, so I'll just bring up, so we, since I started here, Jerry really made it a point to, he and I spoke right away and talked about, I talked to every department head and see how our relationships are going to set some good foundation, because I was coming in new and I didn't know those relationships. So one of those topics that was broached right away in January 2020 when I started, believe it or not, I just started my third year here. And I spoke to Jerry almost right away, and he said that the issue of parking was a problem, especially during snow removal. I mean, he was blunt. He said that the ordinance was not being enforced, and that a lot of times they had to go around vehicles, and then it would ice over, and now they had issues, and there was safety issues and whatnot. I'm not here to talk about past administration. I don't know what was going on. Maybe they were just too busy. I don't know. But I made a point to try to develop a relationship with every department head. And since that was a priority for him, we have done that above and beyond. Try to, especially if they're out plowing, we're physically going out and looking for those things. One of the things that was happening back before I started was their ticket process for a violation, parking violation, was really extensive. So I'm like, well, where are the little tickets that you just write? And they had a huge process. So I narrowed that way down and got us, the little parking tickets that you write. And so it became much easier, much more efficient. And so it was just easier to enforce. And I think that probably had a lot to do with that, because they had to sit and type in a whole report for one ticket. So if they had 10 violations, that basically took them 3 hours. And so I think that was part of the issue. So we've cleaned that up. So it's quick. Now they just, write tickets pretty easily. So we have done that. But since that, now it has created a little bit of an issue with regards to, we're enforcing, but where do people park, which has been a topic here since the beginning of time, probably. So the question really is, do we need, most communities have an alternate side parking. They on odd days you park on one side, they clean out the other side, and then the next day they got to come out and clean the opposite side to make it even. But the important part of that ordinance is it's constrained to a certain amount of hours. You can't maintain that for all day, things like that. The ordinance, the way it is right now, is actually nicer because as soon as it's clean, you can park there. So all you really have to do is move it when, they're cleaning, but where to, right? And then the issue has been that where do people go? So people will complain, it'd be nice to go to Bear Park, or it'd be nice to go to the municipal building, or it'd be nice to go wherever. I still think it would be an issue because you got to park your car and then how do you get home? So it's still a problem. And lots of times Jerry's trying to clean real streets, not parking lots. I mean, even ours has sometimes been on the back burner, even though, I'll say to him, we need to make sure that we're taking care of our parking lot because we're an emergency service. And so he does a good job taking care of us. But Bear Park, if you go there right now, those parking lots they have snow on them and ice and whatever. So I don't know what the answer is. It's been brought up after this last round of snow. I think people got used to no snow, right? And then all of a sudden we got hammered and we were out a couple of times. And so they got some citations and people were really hammering us on Facebook. And not really us, but more just the ordinance, they were upset about it. So this topic is back up when I first started here, it was brought up. I remember it was a topic when I first started and it kind of fell to the wayside. So because of all the hoopla, I thought we should bring it back, talk about it and make a decision on it. I don't see anything else that will work. Either what we currently have or alternate. I think there's really not another variation that might work for us. I did share with you, as I always do, if a topic is going to affect another department head, I'll send them an email saying, hey, what is your opinion? What do you think? Give them an opportunity to voice an opinion, which I shared with all of you, Jerry's opinion on that, and kind of the reasoning behind it. So you have everything that I have, and now it's your turn to decide.
Well, you just back up a little bit to the conversation we first had. As I recall, if I'm wrong, please correct me. We went through it. I remember Jerry's notes kind of were that he didn't see any advantage to alternate site parking.
Yeah.
That they weren't hindered in any way with the plowing, that to where alternate site parking can make things better.
No, I don't think if I understand it right, I think it doesn't really make it better for him
Right.
or his guys.
That was my recollection.
I think they're out no matter what. And because there might be cars left over, they got to come back through anyways and clean those streets where people finally moved. I don't think that matters. I think he's more thinking that, the way it is now, if people just move it temporarily while we brush through, you're going to get rid of the 2 inches of snow or whatever.
Sure.
And then you just park again. It's those probably more so the extended, where it now snows, which just happened, where it snows for like 8 hours. And so they're plowing pretty much, 6 hours of that time. And then where do you go? And people are like, well, we got to sleep. Where do we park this thing? And so some residents have been told, well, park on your yard, and those, it's not feasible. It's not, who's going to park on their yards. So I don't know.
I have to right now.
So, yeah, and I think people do. They don't want
Yeah.
a ticket,
Right.
Nobody wants to pay a ticket. Of course
Everyone
not.
wants to run a car across.
Yeah.
Or a curb either.
Yeah, or get stuck in their yard.
Right.
So I don't, the sentiment is snow is an inconvenience for everybody. I think everybody knows that. But it's just kind of time to make a decision and then just stick with it, because I really can see this going, back and forth.
So I'll make a couple of comments. And the chief, thanks for giving some input as well. I think as a public safety issue, really the clearing of the snow and ice is really the issue we need to make sure happens. I think it's pretty easy to understand why it's more efficient if the cars aren't on the street, right? And I think we all have people in our neighborhood that they go around a bunch of cars. Snowfall is inconvenient. I've done shift work, I've lived in apartments as well, and move stuff and the plows going to put it back. It's snowfall isn't. Most of our departments do have decent off-street parking, but it's still, they're gonna have to move it at some point, even to get the park cleared. I think it's probably the most efficient way to handle the snow and ice issue, the current system. And I think I think one of Jerry's big points is the old alternate ordinance was enforced, or you were in violation if you didn't move the car, whether it snowed or not.
Right.
And you know, we're aware of the snow in the snow emergency. It has to be 2 or greater inches. You know, Madison will do the same thing, suspend it for a snow emergency so they've got streets cleaned up. I think there might be some creative ways for the village board and staff to have a couple of places, I guess, to clear out. I don't know that I think it causes another problem to change it to alternate. I guess it's the best way.
Yeah.
For me, to say it, and maybe a citizen, maybe a resident or somebody come up with a good idea, you know. There are people who creatively use, you know, private parking lots to move for 10 or 12 hours to get permission and then they move it back. Some people have travel trailers, some people have their trucks parked on the streets.
Are there specific areas where this is more problematic than others?
Not based on the comments. I think people just, and some that the comments that were being made, probably some of those people weren't even affected. They're just friends of those people. And,
Sure.
and so I think it's one of those topics that, you know, you're trying to park in front of your house, but it's no different. We get complaints of people just parking in front of someone's house. And then we have to explain, well, it's a free street, right? Everybody can park. Why in front of my, those kind of things. So I just think it's parking is an issue, period. In the village, you're just adding a difficult time with snow, and ice. That's it. That's really where it comes down to.
And on the public safety piece, I do think the most important thing is clearing the roads of snow and ice for both emergency vehicles and so pedestrians, and our citizens can be safe. So, I'd be open to a more creative idea. I don't think going back to alternate side parking is going to help a lot. I think it's actually going to probably confuse some more people and probably make staff's job harder to clear the streets.
Well, it's just a gigantic process when you go to that. And then you got the enforcement, and then it snows and it doesn't snow, so the police department tied up checking all of these cars. I lived here when we had it before, and I lived on a circle at that time. It was just unless my opinion is unless Public Works is telling us that the alternate site parking helps the situation. And this doesn't, that's sort of off the table. So I agree with Doug that what we're doing now, I think, probably maybe not be the greatest solution, but it's the best solution we have now, and alternate site parking.
So if you,
I agree. It's just, you hear the snow emergencies all the time on TV. Alternate side parking is now in effect. I don't know if that's something to put on the website, just so that there is one side of the street that is always clear. But yeah, just trying to every day think about, okay, is this odd days, is it even day, where do I put my car?
I think in order to clean it, and I think with all these topics, we should probably take a motion, a first and a second, and then vote on it. So it's one way or another voted yay or nay.
I would make a motion at this point that the Public Safety Committee is in favor of the ordinance as is.
I'll second that motion.
No further discussion. Doug has the motion, Randy has the second. I just don't think the alternate's a better solution. Got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say the same.
Okay,
Stay
thanks.
as is. Next topic, discussion on possible action regarding Public Safety Committee monthly meetings.
Okay, so this has been brought up. This is brought up in a couple settings. Having a monthly meeting. Every committee has monthly set meetings. it's been proposed, I think Doug kind of led that conversation, and I won't speak for you as far as why, but to have them every other month. And we kind of, at our last meeting in October, I think there was a kind of like a sentiment that that's what we wanted to do. I can tell you from the standpoint of our village president, he doesn't believe that we should be meeting every other month. He believes we should have a meeting every month. He's pretty strong about that, especially if you're an active committee. Me personally, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I've got about 15 meetings that I attend every month. So I mean, having one less is probably beneficial to me. But I would just say if we're not going to have those meetings, that we be prepared for an emergency meeting in the middle, just because you don't want to wait 2 months to take on a topic, especially if it's a hard topic. The other thing, the disadvantage of not having the set meetings in play is that it's harder. Everybody's schedules build up, and all of a sudden Tuesday really isn't going to work. So it might have to be Friday. We might have to be a lot more flexible just to get a quorum. It's a little harder. So the other idea would be to schedule them every month, and then, then just call a meeting off and say we don't have anything to do. So there's some options out there, but I think we need to have a motion and a second and actually make a decision on which way we're going to go. So as a committee, you guys can stand forward in one way, because there is some pressure, I believe, to have a meeting every month and to stay energized and whatnot. But I'm not sure having more meetings means we're more energized. I mean, I think it depends on the content of the meeting, right? But that's where this came from. So I think, although we had a general consensus, I think we need to make a motion and actually make a decision with one way or another, or one of those different ways of handling this. And that way we can get it on our website. For me, the biggest issue with policing in general is transparency and accountability. If we don't have those things, and it starts right here at these meetings, if you have a meeting and people think they're going to be able to come, and then there's no meeting, people start to wonder what we're doing. And I don't want that at all. So that's why I want a decision. Okay, that's it.
And I'm open either way. I've shared my preference in October. I shared a little bit of my reasoning. I was excited about Candace's idea around more engagement or some type of neighborhood. What I'd like to do is have just more people engaged in the public safety process each day. And I'm talking about locking doors, things that everyone can do, and not just your house doors, your car doors, being smart and safe every day. Especially in my work life, I don't think meeting to meet is just a good thing. I understand the need for scheduled meetings and getting them in their schedule. So, I'm open if we want it monthly. I would be just as open if we want it bi-monthly. It's our committee, we're the members of it, so it's our decision. And I have seen many times where emergency meetings are called that aren't really emergency. And I'm not talking about the police and safety committee or the public safety committee, excuse me. Having been on the village board 3 terms, we've had a lot of emergency meetings that could have waited. And I also want to, trust in staff, trust in our department heads. It's their full-time role. It's what they do for a living. I think Chief Tony has set us on a path of updating many things in our community. And, one of the things I like that he does is engages in social media. And sometimes when you do that, what do you hear? You hear the things that people aren't happy about. But I also see a lot of praise around the direction of our police, fire, and EMS. So, I'm open either way. I don't want to burden Chief Tony with a lot of extra work and prep. I think we all need to take ownership and responsibility of doing some things too. So, I would prefer to hear a little bit more from you 3 and then kind of talk about which is the best path.
I guess I'm open either way. If there's a meeting first Tuesday of every month, I just sort of lock that into my mindset. There's a meeting, and if that makes the village board feel a little better that we are, doing our bit and being available to the public.
I do think we're probably gonna have to move, like today was, as you can see, court was set up and the library is having a lot of issues. So I know that there was talk about us going to the library, but there's some issues there. Just since the new roof, there's some problems. So even getting meetings, village board has come back home, just trying to stay away from all of that, all of those issues. So I don't know how soon that's gonna be fixed. They've been dealing with the roof for, I think it's been a year. So I mean, there's tons of stuff going on there. So, if we're gonna have them here, it's gonna be difficult to do them on the second Tuesday of the month because we're running into court. They're usually like, they were leaving and I was like, okay, I gotta hurry up and try to set up. And so as we open up, hopefully, someday we'll actually have people in the gallery. I think I need to have more time to set up and just make this look better than just this L, And and Tuesdays is just difficult because if they do have a long court, then what? We're gonna be like, well,
Right.
so I didn't think of that when we thought of that, but as I was doing the schedule, I'm like, it falls on court date. So first Mondays are fine, or third Mondays, or Tuesdays, third Tuesdays. I like later in the month because things happen during the beginning of the month and it's easier to report toward the end of the month. It would be beneficial for me if you had it before the village board meeting, because stuff that I report here, I report to them. So if we're gonna get something passed from here, it gives me at least a week to get my documentation in row before I gotta give it to the board. So if we approve something, especially something with money, and we need I need at least a few days between one meeting and the next, and usually he's already getting his agenda out almost by the end of that week, but then I'll make it a priority if you end up going to the third, Tuesday of the month. And if it's not that important, we can wait an extra month to deal with it, but at least it gives me some time to prepare that paperwork. Right now, we have an interim, so he's gonna have some things that as we go, hopefully we get someone hired, but as you guys all been in hiring processes, you may have a plan, but it might not be till next year before we get somebody. So I think that's a topic. The other topic that they've made me emergency management director for the village. I basically took over the position. I took over that section of the position that Bill had. So that's going to add some extra dynamics as far as what we're doing. Yeah, and well, I don't even know where I'm going to fit it, but the reality is that will make it a lot more difficult, especially since now we really do have a nice emergency operation plan, and it's kind of at the final stages. We'll actually start talking about working that and doing a lot of things with that. So I think that's important too to kind of keep in mind, because you guys are going to be in that process. The other hot topic that's coming down the pike is the new village hall / police department. The thought is to have that built by 2025. And this committee is going to be charged with some of that decision making, those kind of things, like just deciding about safety issues and just, you guys are going to be involved in some of that decision making. There's a subcommittee being formed, which I'm on that subcommittee, so I'll be able to relay back to you, but some of the decisions are going to be made here. So in all honesty, if it was up to me, I would probably pick monthly meetings, keep them maybe on the third Tuesday, and if we don't need one, cancel it, rather than trying to find an emergency meeting or miss a meeting and we had to make a fast decision with regards to something with the building. You think about 2025, although it seems far away, the village board only meets once a month, so it's not that many meetings before you're breaking ground and building that. So
I think that's good. I think Tuesday is a good night to have a meeting, whether it's the first, second, or third.
Tuesday is by far my best.
Yeah, me too, for work responsibilities.
So like everybody, I think Canvas was a good night.
The other thing I would suggest, based on the way things are right now, then maybe we go to the monthly meetings, maybe in March or April after COVID's kind of run its course a little bit, because I know everybody's dealing with
Sure.
COVID either at home or at work. Or all over the place.
So if you don't mind, I'll build on that just a little bit, Randy. I think both with year-end work, with Bill Chang leaving, with the COVID spike right now, I would be in favor of having monthly meeting scheduled starting the third Tuesday of March.
Okay.
It would help me with my workload at work as well. And then I just also want us to keep in mind that, hey, if there's not a hot month, whether it's, midsummer or whatever, that we're just gonna maybe push it back a month, but
So just make
based on discussion, I'll make a motion that we will plan monthly meetings the third Tuesday of each month, starting with the third Tuesday in March of 2022. A motion to have a second.
I'll second.
A motion and a second by Randy. Further discussion.
starting March 22nd, then we would go.
I think it's the 15th. 22nd.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
15th.
the first is, so it would be the 15th.
Same time, or do you guys want to have it earlier?
7 is good.
7 is the earliest I can.
Yeah,
I might work a little.
Okay,
I like 7.
And just knowing that we'll give advance notice as well.
Absolutely.
We can't make it like the 15th, I can't make it as an example, but aside from that, I think that's a great call, schedule it monthly.
okay.
So motion and a second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I'm sorry, who it was Doug
My
motion.
motion, Randy seconded.
Okay, sorry.
No worries. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say the same. Carries unanimous. Discussion of possible action regarding school community resource officer job description and evaluation.
So I've shown you this before. There hasn't been any changes. I just, we're trying to get the school to basically have a contract in place a lot sooner than at the end of the year of their school year. Their fiscal year is different than our fiscal year. And so, and for planning wise and recruitment wise, it's really important that we have a contract. So we've already met with the school trying to, reorganize the contract a little bit. So that'll be going to school board here, probably here in January or early February, so we can get a contract. The reason I'm kind of desperate in getting that accomplished is if I lose an officer, there's always that thought of what happens if the SRO isn't replaced. And that really hurts my recruitment process because nobody wants to get hired and then not have a contract and then get laid out. And who's going to apply for that? So we have a strong commitment from the school that is not going to happen, that school resource officer is going to stay. And so we're really kind of dependent on that. We have had some conversations surrounding the future of the police department with regards to the build out of a new department and what that's going to look like to have make sure we're having 24-hour coverage and what would we need for staffing levels. And I can tell you right now, we're already as high as much as we can tolerate us for workload. We're super busy. And so there's probably already room for growth. It's just, where does it come? Where's the financing for something like that? So I think as we start to think of that, in the future, that will have to be some discussions. But for now, this SRO contract is something you've already seen. I would just like, again, I think it was just a consensus before. Then the attached document is the evaluation process that we are taking to evaluate the program, evaluate the personnel in that position, see if they're a good fit. This is something that's been developed between Middleton Police Department, myself, our police department, and the school district. So we're working in partnership on all of these things. So this is not new for us at the police department or Middleton PD, and definitely not new to this school district. I just wanted you to see it. It's not going to go to the full village board, as none of our policies would. This is just for you to see, and okay, if there's something that sticks out that you're like, I don't like it. I just want more eyes on it, since I'm the one kind of on the hook with regards to our department. So I just thought partnering with you guys to take a peek at it and see if you saw something glaring. It's been looked at multiple times. I've read it a dozen times, but I still wanted you guys to take a peek at it. And I'm probably gonna do that with a lot of things, just if I can partner with you with regards to a policy or a procedure or whatever, you'll get to see it. That way it'll give me a little bit of a citizen oversight on these things, so.
I think that looks good when we want to vote to.
Yeah, you'd have to make a motion and second to approve this as is and with no suggested changes or anything.
I'll make the motion that we accept the policy.
Motion Johnson. A motion from Randy and a second from Tammy to approve the school community resource officer job description and evaluation. Any further discussion? Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say the same. Passes unanimously.
And just a quick follow-up, so for the SRO for the contract, that'll be this month or next month.
We're hoping that we've already met and we made our proposal changes. A lot of it is years and dates and that kind of thing. There was a couple of key changes. One of them is to this job description as being part of the contract. So see, the difference with the job description and the contract is if there's a contract change, that has to go to village board and village board has to see anything like that. So if in the contract it's spelled that on Tuesdays, Roger has to go here, on Wednesdays, he has to go there or whatever, and there's a change, you're changing the contract. So now you have to bring that to the village board. So the idea of Jay and myself was there's no need to do that. It should be in the contract to say, follow the job description. And so if the job description, which is a working document, may change, and so then you just follow that job description. You don't need to. So I think we were just kind of trying to streamline that process rather than wait a month to continue a contract so that's where those things will play. But. All right. Next.
Future items of discussion, 2021 Police Department annual report.
Yeah, this is good. I was gonna ask to be able to do it by March. We usually get some extra things that come in on the budget and things that usually, the books really don't close till April anyway. But there's some things that I want to report to you guys. I want to keep building on that report. I know that the village board never received a report from the police department, but I think it's important that you guys and the village board is kept in the loop of what we're doing, what are the trends, what is happening, and those kind of things. So that report is going to get bigger and bigger and kind of fuller. My plan is to present it to you in March and then get it on the village board and then present it more as a PowerPoint for them, that kind of thing. So that's my plan for that, to get that prepared for you guys by March and probably try to do it every March.
Yeah, I think that's great. Last year's report was well done, and I think it can also help us guide and go back to it as we make decisions and have discussions. So greatly appreciate it. And then item number 2, community oversight committee.
So this was brought up as part of a discussion that Doug and I had with Jay and Bill. And one of the topics that came up was having a community oversight committee. Now, that's, in my opinion, that's what this is. This is a community oversight committee. You can build other oversight committees, but my thoughts are I'm already bringing, items like use of force. We're dealing with them here. We're dealing with tasers, less than lethal. Why build a separate committee? Some communities do have a public safety committee. They have a police committee. Then they have an oversight committee. They have all kinds of different things like that. But I really think that for us, this is the oversight committee. It's made up of pretty much all citizens, with the exception of a representative of the village board, which kind of connects the two. So I think that this would be okay to maintain just like this. I was thinking about putting it on the agenda and for next month and take a motion on it, that hopefully you guys would agree that the work we do here is enough oversight as an oversight committee, rather than adding other oversight committees to look at things that might come up.
I agree.
I feel it's exactly our role, and I think I can help define that in our role and mission.
Yeah.
I would like to look a little bit more at Candace's idea. I know she called it a neighborhood watch, but I think we had a discussion more around just more positive and engaging more people in the safety process in a positive way, not necessarily enforcement or a tattletale way, I guess. I'd like to look a little bit more at that in March too.
One of the things to highlight that, I did meet with Candace about, a neighborhood, and it just seemed a little bit hard to do. We were talking about some apps and those kind of things, a very expensive way. So I think we need to come up with a more creative way. Candace has some good ideas. I think we're going to do that. And then I'm also going to start actually this year trying to get some awards from the police department. Like, we deal with people throughout the year that help us and really do good civic duty type thing. So I think just to promote that, and not only just community members that do things, go above and beyond helping their community. I also want to partner. I'm going to talk to the schools. I think they'll go for it, and also identify maybe a couple 8th graders that are very civic minded and doing some positive things. It might generate a ripple effect for others, as we showcase them in the paper and talk about them on social media, and people will say, well, maybe I want to be that, and maybe it'll generate some of those good thoughts. A lot of what we've been doing on social media has done that, the ripple effects on that have been great, like our feeding people during the holidays and those gift bags that we handed out. They're not very hard to do, but they send a big message out. And so I will continue to build on that. I was just thinking a way to incorporate what you were talking about as more of just a recognition of all the good things that are being done, because there are some really good community members that help us, and all the organizations do it. Lions Club does it, Optimists do it, and I think we just need to partner with them.
I agree. And, I think the more you can partner with some of those good organizations that you just mentioned, and maybe we can do some a little more fun at National Night Out this year. I
Yeah,
think those are a couple of avenues to start. And the last thing we want to do is have it be cumbersome or expensive. We just want to simply engage people in a more positive.
yeah, I think so.
That would be coming out of public safety, not necessarily police. But
Yeah,
you're good
Yeah.
sharing that process.
Yep, it'd be coming right from here. So we could, partner. I mean, maybe we don't have somebody that, this year, but fires can say, hey, how about this person? And we don't have to isolate it to one individual. Maybe it's just a group of people. I mean, it's a paper award, and we can come up with some funding to get some plaques. I mean, that stuff is not that big a deal. So yeah, I think it would be a presentation from our committee, not specifically the police department, but surrounding what we're talking about, some recognition of some positive things.
Yeah, I like it.
Let's see what else. The other thing, I didn't put it on there, but I think that it's important that I hate to put you on the spot, Doug, but to talk to somebody, probably Jay, and find out exactly what our role and responsibility is going to be regarding the city hall and PD building. What are they looking for from us, so we can be kind of guided right away. I know that the sustainability committee had it on their agenda, so Bill has already thrown that out at them, that they're going to be part of this, but maybe some questions and some good direction as to what's going to be expected of us.
I will take that, and I think that will be a good conversation to have with Jay around that building and facility, and then also scope and role of how we report up to the village board. I don't know that
It's a very big deal, simply too, because of the cost that's going to be involved. We can't
absolutely.
perceive that we're, creating a Taj Mahal, and just make sure the roles are clear so that we don't get crisscrossing.
Yeah, just so well needed. Look at where we're meeting.
It's not much of a debate.
Anything else that you guys, so I have those 3 topics for March, but, and if you have any other topics, just send me an email and we can, the real issue is just getting out information. So, getting it out in time. And so my hopes is to get this stuff out in time so you have time to review it, and have time for input and maybe ask questions or whatever, is happening at
So
that
there's
time.
an interim village administrator coming in. Is that-
Yeah, so Mike Axon has been appointed interim. He did it the last time they hired. So he's been appointed that position and we'll see. We wish him luck, and he's still going to be doing his parks director position. So that's a tall order because good thing is right now there isn't a lot going on in the parks, but there always is something. He always has something on his plate. So at least right now he has a little more time to breathe, but
And I don't think it needs to officially go into our roles and rules and responsibilities, but I want to be respectful of our time and have an agenda and, plan for about a 50 to 60-minute meeting. We aren't really saving ourselves, if we have it every other meeting month and it lasts 3 hours, we don't really save anybody any time. But I think we can take care of our business in an efficient way if we're all prepared and understand our roles. So I want to be respectful of your time as well. Sounds very good. Next meeting date.
March 7th, March 15th at 7 p.m.
Yeah, does anybody else have an issue or a conflict with March 15th? I think we'll leave it right there, and then as we get a little closer, just make sure that something doesn't come up. And I don't know where the COVID stuff will go. I don't think any of us do. So. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Got a motion by Kevin and a second by Randy. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Our meeting is adjourned.